Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Over Image. Today, I'm very excited, to have a good friend of mine, Dr. Eugene Engman. I know he's such a busy man because he's a man of many talents, so to speak. But he's carved out some time in order for him to join us on this show. Welcome, Dr. Engman.
I love the work you are doing. I love the fact that you are trying to reach a lot of people and to share these stories which can be inspiration to other people. And so thank you for bringing me on. I hope I can contribute and help realize your goal and your vision for this project.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Eugene. With that said, I would just like to give a little bit of a background. So I met Eugene. It's so hard for me to call him Eugene. But when I was in college doing my undergrad, both of us were doing undergrad. It was so easy. So we met at BYU, Idaho. Um, there I was studying, and he was studying also doing his undergrad. But he impressed me so much. I would like to dub him the tutor of the people because he was a math tutor for at the math center, and he was helping a lot of people that needed a little bit more of a lift in terms of mathematics. Those who were taking higher math classes, they needed to kind of brush up on their skills. They would go to him, and I was one of the recipients of his, good talents in mathematics. So Eugene, what he has done, he has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Um, Originally, he's from Ghana, and then after he graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, he proceeded on. He went to the University of Idaho, and then there, what he did, he went and studied a Master of Science in Nuclear Engineering, and then he went forward, and then he went and pursued higher education. He's a man who never stops. He went and did a PhD in nuclear engineering. So just speaking about those engineering oriented stuff, like my brain hurts a little bit.
Oh, you are too kind.
Yes, yes. So the reason why we have him on this show, it's because of the examples, and also the work ethic. Um, he's a larger than life personality, and kindness, humility, all those things. He embodies them because I've known him over the years. He's such a great man, and not only that, he has a great story that in this show we are going to discuss that he can share with us and our viewers, so that they can kind of just learn one or two things from this good man. So with that
Oh,
said,
thank you.
tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I consider myself a storyteller. I I love to take any information I get and turn it into a story. But I grew up in Ghana, West Africa. I'm from the Greater Accra region, and I just love to learn, no matter where it's coming from, whether it's coming from a child, whether it's coming from an adult. I just love to learn, to grasp knowledge, and then turn those knowledge into simple things that people can also learn. So that the my goal is to be able to get knowledge and transfer that knowledge to people in a very simple way. And because of the pursuit of this knowledge, I made friends when I was growing up with older people, older men, older women in the grandma stage or grandpa stage, or people who were getting to that point. And the idea was, if I could gain their knowledge, which would soon disappear because they're older people, I could improve myself in a quicker way. I could learn from their experiences, and then I could also pass that knowledge to people. And so, a little bit about myself. I'm from Ghana, but I love to consider myself, when I'm describing myself, I like to describe myself as someone who is continually learning. I was fortunate enough to have very good mentors along the way. My parents, my siblings, they are some of my best friends and very good friends who and teachers who have taken the time to teach me. And so I count myself as a lucky person, as someone who is opportuned. I like to take back the word lucky, but someone who is opportuned to have received a lot from people.
That is fantastic, and thank you for that. With that said, you actually mentioned something that is very key. You said you used mentors, and also you are always seeking learning. Um, how would you say learning from other people has helped you build up the resilience to be able to go through school, or not only school, but in life, and also overcoming some of the obstacles or hard things that you've had to overcome in order for you to, to succeed, or to actually, you can never say you fully succeeded, or in other words, to achieve some of the goals that you had set. Because I assume when you were maybe 7 years old, you hadn't obtained the PhD, so to speak, but you actually worked towards that. What are some of those key stepping stones that you use to overcome obstacles to achieve goals?
This question can go in different directions. There's so many answers to it, but I would like to start by saying when you are pursuing a journey, the best place to start is to find a mentor, someone who can either guide you personally or someone you can look up to. Sometimes it's very difficult, depending on the field you are in, it's very difficult to get a one on one mentor, but you can mirror your life after someone you want to be like. And I I would say mentorship is one of the key things to achieving success quickly and more efficiently. You can do it on your own, it's going to take a longer time, or you can be very fortunate. But then when you have a mentor and someone to guide you, it makes the journey more efficient because there's someone to turn to ask, hey, when you were in this position, how did you address it? And that's one of the key things for success or for achieving or overcoming obstacles. I'll give you an example. When I first came to the US, I always knew I wanted to do engineering and mechanical engineering. And I got accepted into the program at BYU Idaho. But then in Ghana, we are used to the metric system. In America, it's the English system, which is inches and miles. In Ghana, it's meters, millimeters, centimeters. The conversion is very easy. And the jargon or everyday language in America was a little different from what was in Ghana. And that was one of the biggest obstacles, just trying to understand the perspective from the American side. Because when I attended classes and my professors taught, I had to process it twice. And because of that, I didn't do well in one particular class, which was computer aided design. Now, back home in Ghana, we have something called technical drawing, and I loved technical drawing. It's very similar to computer aided design. The only difference is with computer aided design, you're doing it on a computer. With technical drawing, you're using your hands and the protractor. And so I loved those things. But then when my teacher taught in class, sometimes it didn't make sense. And so I struggled. And I didn't do well on my final exam. But I didn't want that to define me. And so I went to the teacher and I told him that, hey, now the first step is identifying the problem. I went to the teacher and I told him that, hey, I would like to retake this exam. And this is the reason why I'm not getting it. However, if you would allow me to take this exam again, I would like to teach you the subject matter every week. And automatically, I had gotten a mentor by just providing the solution of, I'm not good at this, but I know you can help me. And I would like to teach you the subject you've been teaching me. And what's the advantage of that? Because he's a subject expert, if I made a mistake during the tutorial process, he was going to help me. And so every week, I would go to him, I would teach him the course content. And with time, I started to improve. And at after about a month or two, I told him I wanted to take the exam. Fortunately for me, he gave me the opportunity to take the exam, and I got a perfect score on that exam. Now, I had gotten a mentor from by just identifying the problem and embracing myself, being humble enough to go to the professor and say, "This is my problem, and this is how I want to solve it." And guess what? My first internship was because he had a connection that used computer aided design. And when he was looking for someone to fill that role, one of my name came to his mind because he saw the potential in me as someone who was willing to learn. So find a mentor. From that class, because of the diligence I put in that class, I went on to tutor for him to become a teaching assistant. And we've had a very good relationship ever since. So the first step, find a mentor. As I was telling this story, I proposed a lot of solutions. The second step, or the second idea, is how to overcome obstacles. Don't be a problems identifier. What do I mean by this? Everyone is a problem identifier.
Mm.
People are quick to see the problem. People are quick to see fault. Don't just stop there. Be a solution provider, because not everyone can provide solutions. And so when you provide solutions, it makes you see the bigger picture. It gives you first-hand knowledge of what's going to work and what's not going to work, and then take it from there. So don't just stop at identifying the problem that, hey, I don't know how to do it. Come up with solutions and follow through with those solutions. And the third, what I would like to say as my third point is always work backwards. What do I mean from that? Look to the end, or have the end goal in mind and work from there. If you have the end goal in mind and map your way backwards, you most at times use your time efficiently. And I learned this lesson in a different way. I went to a conference and we were talking about going to tour the city. But then we had a very busy airport. And so if we were going to tour the city on the last day of the conference, we had to make sure that we were at the airport on time. And one of my mentors, instead of going from, hey, what time are we going to wake up tomorrow, went from, when does the plane leave? And then we work our way backwards. It allows us to see what time we have, the obstacles that can prevent us from meeting the plane, and then addressing that to make sure we're on time. And so find a mentor. Mentors would help you. Don't be a problem identifier alone. Be a problem identifier as well as a solution provider. And then look with the end goal in mind. Look at things with the end goal in mind.
That is fantastic. No, with that said, I really love the idea of, having the end in mind, and also because the end in mind then becomes a little bit more of like your anchor point. And because
Exactly.
it's already at the end, you already see the fruit, you've already envisioned it. So it's much easier also, to kind of just also have the best steps to use in order for you to
Exactly,
get to
yes.
that, to the point.
It
Now,
makes the process more efficient
exactly,
and just
exactly.
wandering around trying to get to where you're going to. So define your goal and then work backwards and see what you can do to achieve it.
Now, tell us a little bit about, you already have the mindset, you already have you've already mapped everything out. You say, well, this is the end where I need to be at. The beauty about what you said, the words that were very, very impactful. You said everyone is a problem identifier. I thought that was very, very powerful. It is so quicker in life for us to find faults, but the solution, sometimes that's where we get hung up the most on. Now, knowing you over the years and seeing the things that you've accomplished, the other thing that I've already mentioned is like motivation. How you are one of the people that are motivated, so to speak. You even have your own project called the Red Book. Tell us a little bit more about how motivation has played a huge role in your life and how you are spreading that, that spirit of having a positive mindset with everyone using the project that we have. And I'm going to link in the description as well the project that he's working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that start, and what's the intent and what's the end goal?
Thank you very much. That's what you're talking about is the red book. I carry around with me a book and it's red. I don't have a copy here with me. I would have brought it here, but if you can send a link or put a link in the description for people to see. When you go on my Facebook page titled The Red Book, you'd be able to find it because I have a profile picture of me holding it, and I also have it laying on a table. That's the cover picture. I'd like to share a story. Before that, I have a lot of things running in my mind. The brain is always busy, and so the 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 red book started with the black book. It's now called the red book. But what happened was, when I was growing up, I was in sixth grade, and one day I came home, and my cousin was in third grade, and we were neighbors. Could see into her home. We had a very short wall that divided us. And so I asked her, hey, how was school today? And what did you guys learn? And she said, we learned about air, the air we breathe. And so I told her, okay, tell me, what is air? What did you guys learn in school today? And she said, air is a mixture of gases, which is really the most basic and most true definition about air. Because in air, you have different gases that combine to make the air we breathe. And it was very simple and profound. But the problem was it was coming from a third grader. Guess what? The next day I went to school. I'm a sixth grader. Okay, what can my third grader cousin teach me? And the teacher wrote on the board, today we are going to learn about air, and said, who can give me the definition of air? And no one raised their hand because they didn't know. And in my mind, I was thinking, do I give the definition my cousin told me? What if people laugh at me? It's coming from a third grader. However, it's very simple and it's very true. And so I shyly and sheepishly raised my hand. And he said, you, what do you think air is? And then I said, well, air is a mixture of gases. And he said, clap for him. And you'd understand is basically give him a round of applause for getting the answer right. That was one of the defining moments in my life
Wow.
where I knew that I could learn from anybody,
Anyone? Mm.
whether I was a third grader, whether I was older people who were my friends, whether I was my peers. And so the Red Book, which started as a black book, is basically a project where I go around, I carry the book with me, and I give it to different people, and I ask them to share what their advice on life and happiness is. And now I take pictures with them. You see some of the pictures online, and I ask for their permission to do that and tell them that, hey, even though what you are going to write will help me, I'm going to also share it with people. And so the Red Book is basically saying I can learn from anybody, no matter
Like
where
that.
they are in life. And it's been amazing. It's been rewarding. I've had very influential people writing it to people who society usually does not regard, and it's been a blessing. And yeah, that's I believe that motivation can come from different places,
Mm.
and the impact the Red Book has had is had me see different perspective. And it's going to get interesting because I just revamped the page. I'm going to be sharing very insightful thoughts from other people, which as I speak right now still blow my mind that people think like this, and so and people see different problems this way. And it's been amazing. That's just the gist of the Red Book and how and what started it.
That is fantastic. Which takes me back. It reminds me of there's an African proverb from my country, Zambia. We say, knowledge can be transferred from an anthill into a huge mountain. And also, it can be transferred from the huge mountain to an anthill.
I like that.
Actually, it's amazing the way the approach the Red Book is taking. I actually follow it quite a bit, and
Oh, thank you.
I'll actually set it
Thank you.
in the description. So those of our viewers out there, I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you follow the page. It's just phenomenal. It's just amazing. That the information that you can pick from there that can be a supplement to your life and also be probably something that can be as a guide. Now, let's say I'll give you scenarios,
Okay.
Eugene. The scenario we have people in academia, and we also have people who sometimes do not favorably view education as the means, that they can use in order for them to succeed in life. You've already seen one lens, but I also see that also you have a kind of like a multi-dimensional way of looking at things. I know you advised me even with different um, editing productions and stuff like that. So in short, I can say you also have a little bit of an entrepreneurial mindset. How did that come about? Someone who is in our norm in society, we like to say academics, they're just focused on school and it's just all about books. They don't actually sometimes look at life maybe to say, okay, how am I going to learn from someone on the streets? For example, what you're using as the red book, right? You're not buried into the books, yet you are also a man of the book. You are also leveraging social experiences in order for you to learn from anyone, like you mentioned, even from people as well who may be regarded to say, I don't think I can learn anything from this person. But you yourself, you've had that mindset to say, wait a minute, I can also learn from anyone. Would you say that shift was actually embedded from the third grader, when you were younger, that third grader taught you a lesson to say you can basically learn from anyone?
Thank you very much. That's a very great question. The first thing I'd like to say is ego, EGO. Ego really, really can destroy success. If you are not willing to put your ego aside, it'll be very difficult to learn. You can learn from anyone. You can learn from your wife. You can learn from a kid. Knowledge, truth can come from anywhere, or basic knowledge can. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. But sometimes we let our ego get in the way. If I was going to advise someone, take away your ego. I was reading a book, either a book or a statement from a motivational page, and it said one of the biggest, I think it was a LinkedIn post, one of the biggest hurdles to success is ego. And put your ego aside. If you're able to train yourself to do that, information will just flow. And take it as it comes and then sieve through it and pick the best ones. Now you talk about the fact that I branch into different things. I love photography and video work. I love
Yes, yes,
motivation. I love telling stories and everything I take. I just want to polish up to a place where it can become sustainable for me. Now, I have this mindset, and when I talk to people about learning different things, I believe that the ability to thrive comes from how much you know and how versatile you can be. What if I lose my job today? What if I lose my pay in this aspect? What is there that can help sustain me for the foreseeable future? And I get this analogy from the farm. I'll tell people I've spoken with that. Imagine you're employed on a farm to milk the cow. Okay, so the farmer has employed you to milk the cow. What happens when the cow dies? You become useless. And so I tell people, hey, on the farm, there are different things. When you are employed to milk the cow, or when you're employed in a certain position, learn how to use the tractor. Spend an hour or two after work. You are not going to be paid for it. Learn how to use the tractor. Learn how to make hide from cow skin. Learn how to plant crops. Learn how to take care of horses. Learn how to harvest crop. Why? Because when the cow dies, you don't become useless. You can tell the farmer, hey, I know how to turn this into very nice leather for you. Or I see that you are struggling with finding someone to replace you during the evening shift on the tractor. Over the course of being on the farm, I learned how to use the tractor, and so I can help you. When you look at life like that, you become very it's very difficult to be disposed of. It's very difficult for people to get rid of you. And so learn different things. Don't just go in and say, I was taught how to milk the cow. There's a lot of people who do that, and sometimes it breaks my heart. I only know how to make the cow. Okay, when the cow dies, you are gone. You have to
Right.
start from you have to start from scratch again. And so don't just learn how to milk the cow. Learn how to make cheese. And the funny thing is, if the farmer does not need you to man his tractor, you can go to the next farmer who does not need someone to milk the cow, but someone who can make cheese. Say, hey, when I was on this farm, I learned how to make cheese. And you can go and look at my record there. They don't need me at the moment because the cow is no longer there. But if you need someone to fill the role of cheese, I can help make that. So don't go with the mindset of I'm just going to learn one thing and just stick to it. Find time. It takes a lot of sacrifice. Find time, an hour or two a day. Just learn something out of the ordinary. So that when your mainstream of income or your mainstream of sustenance fails, you have other streams you can go to.
That is wonderful. I really love that. Now, with that said, it's so important for us to be able to look at that we are more than one thing, right? And you
Yeah.
actually give it really well to say, if something doesn't work, then you need to be able to be layered, to have a layered approach to say, then I need to use another layer for me to be able to get to the next stage. And that is so good. I really love that. Now, the other question that I have is, what are some of the written books that you've used that really anchored you to help you to have that self-belief or motivation, so to speak? I know you prefaced this, you mentioned that your family was there for you. You had a very good support system. You use mentors. But from just the list of readings, what are some of the books that you felt like these really helped you to have that mind shift or the mindset of saying, I may not be there, but I will be there. In other words, to be motivated or to stay in the realm of saying, this is not my permanent position. I'll be something as time goes on.
Thank you very much. I'm not really good at remembering titles, but I just love to grab information here and
100%.
there. But
Yes.
then I believe there's a book called The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. That's a really good book. There is
Yes.
another one that talks about negotiation. It's by this renowned FBI negotiator. I don't remember his name, but he talks about how to negotiate with people,
Mhm.
trying
It's
to
called Split the Difference. I've read that
split
book.
the difference.
Yes.
Exactly. I
Hmm.
really like I really like that book. The reason why I like you'd see the seven habits of highly effective people, you see split the difference. There is also leadership and self-deception. There is
Yes.
there is the I don't remember the other books. I would send you a list of those in my free time. But then the
Yes.
idea for me is it's good to be motivated to do things,
Hmm.
okay? It's
Mm.
good to develop different habits. However, you should know how to relate those habits to the people you work
Mm.
around. And so don't just go around looking for books that just motivate you. Look for
Mm.
books also that help you build relationships with people. Because what if you're motivated but don't know how to communicate your excitement, don't know how to
Wonderful.
to take your excitement out there, then there's a problem. There's this guy
Love that.
I always see his ad on Facebook, and he he talks about the fact that a lot of people focus on their outer image. We
Hmm.
have our outer image and we also have our speaking image
Mm.
or our relationship image. The way you're able to communicate what you are thinking is as important as the idea itself. Otherwise, the idea goes to die. And so if there was anything I had to say, it would be your speaking image is what sustains how people perceive you. So if I come in a suit and I go into a multi-million dollar investment meeting, just by seeing me, you know I can handle money. But
Mhm.
what if my voice cannot support what you saw? Then you
Right.
start to cast it out. And so work on the motivation side of becoming great, develop very good habits, but also work on the communication side, how to present yourself. And I try to do this on a daily basis. Every day. Sometimes I talk to myself and my wife is a little worried. She's like, "What are you saying? Are you talking to anybody?" I'm always trying to work on how I deliver a message.
I really love that. So, in other words, you self audit. You know, you have a self
Exactly. That's a
forensic
very good word.
analysis. Yes, you self audit and you look at yourself to say, okay, here I do have a few gaps here, and what are some of the ways on how I can be able to bridge the gap so that I can get to the other side. That's fantastic. I really love that, which takes me to actually think about even on my life as well. You know, most of the people, you know, and knowing you as well, I've known you for several years. Even having this conversation, it's not natural. It has taken some practice because I remember when I was growing up, even my mother was worried about me. It's like, why are you very unsocial? Why are you always to yourself? You know, my siblings
Exactly.
that I grew up with, you know, they know that really well. But for the most part, as time went on, people think, oh, yeah, you know, he's always comfortable. He can speak and he's out there. But that took a lot of time. And also, like my voluntary experience for 2 years, you know, I did a religious mission. That also helped a lot in order for me to be able to get out of my comfort zone and also be a little bit more, you know, be an extrovert, so to speak, because I needed to talk to other people, you know, to engage with them and being on the same level with them. So that is such a very, very powerful comment you said. We can have the knowledge, but how does that knowledge translate to help other people? Because for me, I feel like that's the most important key. If there's anything you learn in life, it's the ability to be able to connect with the people. Now, you've actually used one tool you said, sometimes I actually practice and talking to myself so that I can hone the skill of communication. Um, there is actually a research that was done, you know, by Harvard. We say, do you know actually public speaking and communication is actually very feared by so many. It doesn't come for the most part for the general populace. It doesn't come naturally. Like for you, aside from, you know, self-educating, what are some of the tools that you use to be able to learn to say, you know what, I think I can overcome my fears, I can overcome my doubt. Because all of us, at one way or the other, we have what I like to call insecurities. You know, we look at some of the things in our life. Everybody says, "Oh, you are awesome. You're doing everything right." But we always have our own insecurities inside to say, "I don't think I can articulate really well. I don't think I can be able to, you know, to speak in a board meeting or whatever the case may be." So, what are some of the things that you used aside from maybe self-teaching in order for you to overcome that barrier?
You, as you were speaking, I highlighted two things from your state from the question you asked. And as you were speaking, you mentioned the fact that Harvard had done a study or did a study on public speaking. Okay. Now, what you indirectly did or subconsciously did over there, for any researcher who is listening, which relates to me, is that when you were speaking to me, you spoke by anchoring your speech to a fact. Most people are going to believe you if you can speak based on fact and not just speak based on randomized makes things that make sense. But then when you speak, or one of the ways to project yourself is to speak and anchor it to a fact, or anchor it to a study, or anchor it to something. For example, that Lamborghini is really nice and it's a very fast car. Well, everyone can say that. However, if you anchor it to a study, studies have shown that Lamborghinis are very nice. And the reason why they're very nice is when you sit in them, you feel really good and they stimulate your brain cells. And those brain cells stimulate this. Now you start to give certain anchor points and people start to believe you. You have self-confidence and you have this self-image. People, your credibility starts to rise. So one of the ways of becoming really good in speaking out there is always anchor your message to some form of credibility. Now, how do you get to the stage and then start speaking credibly? That's the part where people want to know. Now, Joseph, if I meet you on the street, the only thing I know about you, frankly, the only thing I know about you is how you are dressed and how I perceive you.
Yes.
Let's say I didn't meet you in the past. That's all. Before a speaker comes to talk, the only thing the audience knows about them is some biography and their self image, how they perceive them. And so, within those first 10 seconds, no one knows anything about you. And so, don't be scared. It's very scary to speak in front of people. But if you have this knowledge that no one knows anything about you, and you are the one going to tell them what they should think about you, then public speaking takes a different stance. If I was going to talk in a room full of head of states, that would be very nerve-wracking. But the fact is the head of states do not know me because they haven't heard what I have to say. They could have read about me, but they don't really know my personality. And so those few seconds are when I want to break that ice and speak to them in a way that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Start using credibility right away. And then just relax. And you would find out that public speaking is not, it's not that, it's not that bad. I I learned this from someone I don't remember who taught me that the idea that no one really knows you. And it changed the way I gave talks. I used to be scared. Now let's go to the religious side. In church, sometimes they call people to give talks, and a lot of people come and say, "Hey, I'm very nervous about giving talk." But the fact is, we don't know anything about you. If you didn't tell us you were nervous, no one would know that you are nervous. No
Yes.
one in the room knows you are nervous. No one in the room knows that you didn't sleep 12 hours last night. What they are there is something intrigued them about your message. And so they are there to learn. And so if you start the fact that, hey, I am a little nervous today, I didn't sleep for 12 hours last night, you've already given them a lower self image. But if you start a thank you everyone for coming today, I was reading a study about the subject we are going to talk about, and this is what it says, this is what it says. Now let's dive right in. Who here can, or in my study, this is what I found. People are elevated to a different level. And so go with the idea that no one knows you, no one knows that you can deliver a great message, and just start very good. Don't diminish yourself in the beginning of your presentation or your self presentation, because that's how people are going to see you, even if you end great. Start on a great note, even if you end a little shallow, people would be like, oh no, when he entered the room and he spoke or she spoke, I felt something. And that's what they are going to remember.
Now that's actually such a great point that you make, and I really love it. Now, what are some of the things, let's now dive to the other side of the coin. Let's say from the cultural standpoint, there are other cultures, that believe that silence is a form of power. But on the other hand, people actually buy into the idea of actually being silent because there's also a perception of saying, you know what, I would rather just be as quiet as possible and then things will come to me. And then they go throughout their entire lives without actually actualizing their dreams based on the culture that kind of celebrates, being mute, so to speak. So, what are some of for example, I do know that they are in different places where different sexes, for example, they are supposed to be like, well, you shouldn't be extroverted, so to speak, or you should be muffled up, so to speak. How can we break such barriers, like such, such norms to say, because the reason why I say that, it took me a long time as well for me to be able to break out of that. Because the idea was like, you are taught, you listen, you don't speak. You act, you don't speak. The words, which is not necessarily wrong, but they say, your actions will speak for you. But if nobody knows, to your point that you said, if nobody knows who you are and they expect you to articulate and speak, and then people have bought into that culture, how can we begin slowly to dismantle such notions so that, because if you are hungry and you don't say, I'm hungry, no one will feed you, right? If you are
Exactly.
not, if you have a gap in knowledge, if you are not saying, well, you know what, I am not good at this. I know I have the potential to be good, but I'm not good at this. I need help. If you don't ask for help, no one is coming to help. In your case, you actually mentioned that you knew the subject, but the language translation was more of a barrier. But you said, you know what? I didn't get the grade that I was looking forward to, but I will be assertive. I will go to the professor and put myself in a position where I need to thrive and and overcome this barrier. But we have people sometimes who are diminishing their potential in silence. How can we break some of those, so to speak? Maybe it could be cultural, or it could be, maybe just the society. That's how people are groomed.
Spoke to you, or a professor spoke to you, you took it, and that was a word. You couldn't challenge anything. If you challenged, you were looked at, frowned upon, or you were categorized as someone who was disrespectful. I was fortunate enough that even though that was the culture when I was growing up outside of my home, in my home, my parents fostered the culture of, if you have something in your mind, say it. Yes, we are going to be the parents, but then we are going to allow you to share your thoughts so that we can guide you. So they took that form of mentorship, leadership role combined. They didn't take any nonsense, but they made sure that we were able to express ourselves. To answer your question, let me just go to the very extreme and then come to the middle. In order to break that kind of culture, we need to start with our children. We need our children to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to see a problem with yourself and then find help doing that. It's okay to come and talk to mom or to come and talk to dad. They are the next generation. If we want them to cultivate this habit of assertiveness, then they have to do it. I learned that valuable lesson from my parents and I transfer it to my children. What are you thinking? How do you think we should solve this problem? Come together. I'm going to coach you, but you're going to be the one who is going to solve it so that they learn this attitude of assertiveness, of following through with solving a problem when a problem comes their way. Now, when you come to the middle ground, for people like myself or people in my age group or people who are still thriving in their careers, if you are having a hard time expressing yourself because of the type of culture around you, you are not going to grow. That's how plain it will be. If you want to grow, your opinions need to be valued. Find yourself in a place that values your voice and your opinion. You might not be able to change much around you, but find a place that values your opinion and it would help you grow. I've been very fortunate as a young scientist to have mentors who listen to me when I speak. They know that yes, I have a big knowledge gap I need to keep working on, and I know that myself. But then they don't treat me like that. They treat me as someone who can bring valuable insights. And so that's for the environment of, find a place where people value your voice. Find a place where people treat you like you bring value to the team. If not, you are not going to grow. Now, to the other, if you look at it from the other perspective which you raise, if you have a problem and you keep quiet, you are going to suffer. There's no two ways about that. I'm sorry to break it to you, but your life will be miserable if you can't address that problem. The baseline is you're going to be miserable. Find someone you can trust. If you are very introverted, find someone you can trust that you can talk to. The first point is finding the trust. Usually the trust comes through a sibling, it comes to a parent, it comes to a therapist. But find someone you can trust and tell them about your problem. Start from there. Now, if you have a hard time articulating or finding someone you can trust, start with the end goal in mind. Okay, I have this problem. I don't think I can solve it. But then I see myself 5 years from now being able to being a good speaker. Put a timeline down 5 years. What do I need to be a good speaker? Do your research. And along the line, you find things that you can start working on that would allow you to get to that goal. Along the line, you'd find a mentor. If you cannot speak to people, go online and find someone you want to build your life or tally your life to, and then see what that person does. And slowly you would find out that you would start to come out of that introvert bubble. It's not bad to be an introvert or an extrovert, but there comes a point in time where you have to express yourself. Prepare yourself for that point in time by practicing, by looking at the end goal in mind, by finding a mentor, by asking yourself, would I be proud of if I missed on this opportunity today? What would I tell myself tomorrow? Would I be proud? Would I have wished I got it? And start from there. The, my sister used to tell me that when I was growing up, my sister told me that the worst someone can say when you ask for something is no, and it doesn't change who you are. Go to the next person. I've had a lot of rejections in this life. Rejection is part of the growth process. How you see the rejection is what would affect what you do tomorrow. Don't look at it. Don't take anything personal. I always tell my kids,
Love
don't attach emotions to things, because when things break, your emotions will break. Don't
I love
attach
that.
emotions to things. Attach emotions to your loved ones and to very important things, but on the daily basis, don't attach emotions to things. If someone calls you, hey, this guy is useless, he doesn't understand anything, take it as a very, very, very constructive feedback. Don't attach emotion to it. And then go and start working on it. Because it's very difficult to work on things when our emotions are hurt. And so put emotion aside, put reality aside, and work towards reality.
Wow, that was beautiful. I really love that, Eugene. And I feel
Thank
very
you.
fortunate to be to be able to know you and just the information that you've really shared has been invaluable, so to speak, because um and actually to kind of clarify this it's not even just like a continental culture. I see it because I've traveled to many different places as well. I've seen that, I feel like people who are actually, you know, at the top, sometimes there's an element of selfishness or they want to control. And that's why they want to muffle people so that people don't speak up for them to get what is innately theirs, so to speak. And now the sad part is like when people believe that they shouldn't speak up, and that's where the dominance and control over them takes place. I have seen it, and it's not even just in one continent, it's like in very varied places. And look the historical standpoint. Other people have been subjected to harsh conditions because they were muffled. You don't have to speak up. um the things that you shared, we would definitely have you back on here because it's just so packed and it's
Oh,
so
thank you.
rich to a point where
Thank you.
that I feel like you know anybody out there listening, listen to this once or twice and pick out some of the things that you can be able to use in order for you to get better. Because even for me, this is more self-development. I am engaging with people like him. I'm also growing and learning and tapping from their wisdom as well. So with that
Exactly.
said, Yeah, I would like to ask, what are the, within the few minutes that we have, what are the last, three things that you can share that people should use as to say, well, we've spoken about a lot of things, but these three, in short, you're an engineer, you know precision. What are some of the top three things that people should be able to have the biggest takeaway from our discussion today?
Thank you very much. There's so much we've discussed today. And if anyone has any questions, reach out to Joseph. Reach out to me if you have any suggestions, if you think of anything otherwise. Just reach out and let's have a good discussion. It would be nice to come back and just talk. I like to talk with people because I like to see what their perspective is. I like to just understand people and learn from them. Now, if there's any three things, I would say if you don't have a mentor now, find a mentor. Number one goal. Majority of my success has come from finding a mentor. Okay. Find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a physical person. It can be an online course where you meet people virtually. It could be a figurative figure. Find a mentor. What attracts you to that mentor, and why do you want to become like them? Maybe they are the best nurse or doctor in their field, and you want to learn from them. See what they do and try to reach out, try to tell yourself. LinkedIn is a very good place. You can reach out to different people. Find one. If it doesn't work out, find another mentor. Keep finding till you find someone who will sit down with you, who will just give you their listening ear, or who you can tailor yourself to. So that would be number one. Number two is diversify yourself. Don't just stick to one thing.
Wow.
It's funny because with the way the economy of the world is going now, a lot of people don't have one
Mm,
job. They have like two jobs, they have three jobs. I'm not saying that you should go have many jobs, but diversify yourself so that you are not stuck in a place of difficulty when your first source of sustenance is taken from you.
mm, amazing.
Diversify yourself. So find a mentor, diversify yourself. Now, in order to diversify yourself, it builds up to finding a mentor. Find a mentor in that field you want to diversify yourself and look to and ask yourself, if I want to be like this person, what do I have to do within that diversified field? So find a mentor, diversify yourself. And number three is put your ego aside. You are not going to go far if you
Mm,
keep challenging things or if you think you are better than other people. If you keep squishing people down, you wouldn't go far. Find a mentor, diversify yourself. Finding a mentor would make the journey more effective. It would allow you to use your time wisely. Find find a mentor, diversify yourself. Diversifying yourself would make you very difficult to be disposed of. If you
mm,
can speak three languages, you have an advantage of someone who can speak one language. Okay. And even if you have that advantage, teach the other person that language. Don't look at them. That's where putting your ego aside is. You can learn from people, you can learn from subordinates.
mm.
In our life system, we have people and be willing to learn from other people. And just these three things, if you can practice them every day, it will take you very far in life.
Wow, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much,
you, Joseph.
Eugene,
Thank you.
and we'll definitely
Thank
have you
you.
over. This was
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you so
This
much.
was really good. This was really good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Joseph.